I'm Sophie Dowsett-Smith.
And I'm Limara Thorne.
Welcome to Athena Rebels.
The views and opinions expressed in the podcast recorded in Pax8 studios are those of the individual speakers and do not necessarily reflect the official policy or position of Pax8. This podcast should not be considered professional advice.
Welcome to Athena Rebels, our very first podcast where we will be talking about lots of different challenges women face. We're going to be pushing the boundaries slightly. We're going to discuss, hopefully, some uncomfortable topics.
Definitely uncomfortable.
That most people shy away from. So, yeah.
So we're your hosts. My name is Limara Thorne and this is Sophie Dowsett-Smith.
Hello.
As Sophie says, we are going to be jumping into some maybe uncomfortable moments throughout the series of the podcast. But this is our pilot. This is our very first episode. So let's talk to you about how this all came about. Why did we start the podcast? How did we come up with Athena Rebels?
Well, how did we come up with Athena Rebels? So you and I were on a work trip. We'd gone to, where were we? Like Essex way or somewhere random. Anyway, we had just been to go and see a partner. We were having dinner and we were pretty much just chatting about stuff over dinner, weren't we? Around what we wanted to do, loads of different things and challenges that actually that partner had actually faced, but actually how linked it was to some of the things that we're going to be talking about in our podcast. And over a glass of wine, as per se.
It was a glass of wine. But Athena Rebels, like, it's quite a powerful name.
Yeah.
Like, what's the meaning behind Athena Rebels?
So Athena is the goddess of wisdom. And so we want to be sharing some of our wisdom. She's a very powerful character, but a little bit more than that, the rebel side is because we wanted to make sure that we do test those boundaries. We have those tricky conversations and we love the idea of putting the two together. So a little bit of wisdom with a little bit of a rebellious streak in there as well.
Yeah, and the rebellious comes from also like challenging each other, challenging kind of, you know, the status quo.
Absolutely.
You know, not settling just because it's always been that way. And that's what we love about some of the job that we do now, right? It's actually taken us out of our comfort zone, taking the people that we're working out of our comfort zone as well, and just pushing those boundaries a little bit, almost thinking like, what if?
Yeah, exactly that. But most importantly, staying human. With all of this, that's what we want to make sure that we do in this podcast. When we're talking about it, realize that, you know, we're all human at the end of the day. So even if any of these topics are super challenging, at the end of the day, we all go home and we're all human. So that's really important for us as well.
You don't know what people are dealing with, right?
No.
On a daily basis. You don't know what they've had to deal with before they've even come into work that day. Okay, so that's the reason, or the name, in terms of why that came about. And we're going to jump into kind of the first podcast, but let's talk about ourselves a little bit. Sophie, how did you get to where you are today? Like, we're at Pax8 right now. You've been working with me for a few years now.
Yeah.
But what's the backstory?
Okay, so for me, it probably goes back way back when I studied photography and digital imaging at university. Completely different to what I'm doing now. I went and worked for a photography studio for about a year and a bit, where I was taking photographs of people and families and things like that. And that kind of didn't go so well. I didn't have a great experience at the end of that. We'll talk about that another time. That's another podcast for sure. And from there, I ended up actually getting a job at the Guardian Media Group, which is a local newspaper, or it's quite a big newspaper here, but I was working for a lot of the local newspapers where I was selling advertising space to estate agents, of all people. Sorry if there's any estate agents out there. But I was selling advertising space, and what I kind of learned from that role was that I actually really enjoyed that kind of to and fro with people, that helping them like get to where they want to be, in terms of, like, obviously it was advertising space, but it was like they were building their businesses at the end of the day.
But advertising is also quite a male dominated industry.
Yeah,
right?
It was all men.
Yeah.
My team in that role was like 2 or 3 women and the rest of the floor was probably men. But anyway, I went on from that Guardian Media Group role, and I moved into account management role in Nielsen, which is where I met you, Limara. We'll talk about that in a little bit. But yeah, again, I moved into Nielsen, worked as an account manager for many, many years there. various different roles, new business development, account management, senior account management, all of those things, but always with that kind of view. Some of the customers and partners that we worked with in that industry, it was all about, again, helping them be better, helping them get better results, all of that different types of stuff. And that's kind of where my career's kind of taken me. But I fell into where I am now because of you.
But would you say, you know, I think we'll come on to kind of how we both got here, but you were going through quite big life change, right, in terms of what you're going through?
Yeah, I'd stayed at Nielsen for a really long time. I'd had all my kids there, so I've got 3 kids, and I just come back from maternity leave after having my 3rd child, and I remember walking back in, and no one said anything to me. No one was like, "Hi, how are you doing? How are you getting on with it?" I felt really isolated and alone. And actually, the CEO at the time, she was an American lady, and I remember her think she was like this. She's scary. She was a scary individual, and my manager at the time was like, "Oh, I just want to introduce you to Sophie. She's one of our senior business consultants, and she's just come back from maternity leave." And she went, "How long did you have off?" And I was like, "Oh, I actually managed to get about 14 months off. It was brilliant." And she was like, "Oh my goodness, why didn't you get a nanny?" And I was so taken aback. I was like,
Really alienated
It was so bad. I was like, "Oh my God, I don't know," because I didn't want one. Anyway, so that just put me on the back foot. And I just, from that moment on, I felt totally isolated. I didn't really want to be there anymore. And we'd obviously stayed in touch quite, and I remember we were out for dinner, weren't we? And I was telling you all about this, the fact that I absolutely hated what I was doing at the time. I felt really low. And you're like, "Well, there's a job role coming up at Wirehive." And I was like, "Yeah, but I don't know anything about tech." You're like, "You don't worry, it's fine."
I think everyone that starts in tech knows nothing about tech, right? It's like we all learn.
Yeah. "We don't know anything about it." Getting really like, "Oh no, I can't do that. Oh no, that's not for me. I don't think I'm going to be able to do that. No way." Oh, and you were like,
Again, we'll come on to that because
Yeah,
that's
we
quite a
will.
bit of a confidence thing. People
Absolutely.
not thinking that maybe we're good enough. I think there's some studies that show, if you were to have a job role advertised, like the more men would go for a job role even if they didn't tick all the
Oh, yeah,
boxes,
100%.
whereas a woman would only ever go for a job role if they ticked all of the job, or all the job
That's totally
requirements.
me.
So
Yeah,
but that's
totally.
case in point, right?
Absolutely.
But you thrived and you're here today, which is amazing, right? So I guess one of the things that we're going to be talking around in this podcast is that, how do we have more confidence to be bold and to try new things?
Yeah.
Because you're only growing if you are challenging yourselves. And most people don't like to feel uncomfortable. So how do we get to feel a bit more comfortable?
Being uncomfortable.
Yeah,
That's what they say, don't they?
Yeah.
But you need to tell me about you. Like, we've obviously worked together for a really, really long time. Tell everyone how you got to be where you are.
So it's actually been 20 years that Sophie and I have known each other. 12 years of that was through Nielsen. And then obviously a good few years here now at Wirehive, which is obviously now Pax8. But going right back to kind of my roots, where it all began really, and I never wanted an office job. I wasn't academic. Like, I wanted to work outside, do manual things. I absolutely love horses. So I had a great opportunity. I was 15, I left school, I had some GCSEs, but I wanted to pursue horses. So got a job with an Olympic event rider and I moved miles away. And I was there and I was quite happy. I was doing what I loved. Apart from maybe when actually my boss wasn't actually that impressed with me. I was young, so I was going to make mistakes, but I really worked hard. Like, I was working 14 days on with 2 days off for 50 quid a week, right? It was really, really tough at that point.
Yeah, crappy pay as well, wasn't it? Like,
I didn't do it for the pay.
No, yeah. You just
You
did
do it
for
for the
love of it.
experience, you do it for the love of it. But do you know what? Enough was enough. I couldn't take it felt like bullying, if I'm honest. Like, I never felt good enough. I felt like an embarrassment. So I actually moved back home. I sold the horses and I got, quote, proper job. My mum wasn't going to help me out of the horses anymore. She was like, you need to grow up, stand on your own 2 feet. And I was like, okay. So I found myself at Nielsen, and actually the lady that hired me, she literally said, "We're taking a chance on you. You've never worked in an office environment before." And I was like, I'm going to prove them wrong. Like, I was...
That's you through and through, isn't it?
Absolutely. Like, I can do this and I'm going to do it as well as I possibly could. So I just started as a support executive, helping partners use our media research software. And I loved that. That was just a great way for me to understand what people were doing with what they were, with the data that they had, how they could get more information out of it. And I love that. I love being challenged in terms of how to make things better or how you can kind of be problem solving. And I guess that lends itself well to technology, right?
Yeah.
But to your point, it's coming back to that human thing. Just humans helping humans. But at Nielsen, they did give me some great opportunities. And actually, she was a female boss and she did see something in me. So I moved from a support executive to like a senior. I moved into an account management, and then I played many roles. And I also had a child when I was at Nielsen. But the reason I moved was actually I was going through quite a bad divorce. So I'd been at Nielsen 12 years, going through a divorce. And I come across Wirehive, and they were...
How did you come across them though? Like, what did you?
Well, the thing I love,
out there, didn't you?
I did put myself out there. Obviously, being in media research, we work with a lot of advertising agencies, media agencies, and that was the link. So what Wirehive did, which was amazing, was have a very niche ideal client profile. So an ideal client profile is really understanding who do you want to work with, who do you want to be famous for, and Wirehive had it nailed. And I worked with media research companies, and Sophie, you'll know, they are super fast paced. They always wanted a thing yesterday. So I understood that. I loved that about that. And it made it really easy. The tech I was worried about, but actually...
that's the scary bit though, isn't it?
It is really scary.
It's like thinking that you're going to go into that role,
not feeling good enough.
Absolutely anything about any of it.
Yeah.
And I remember that as well, like coming here and being like, and you're like, no, it's fine, I'll tell you. Until it was like the 20th question on the same thing that I'd spoken to you about. You're like, you know it now, come on. But yeah.
But that's one of the things, right? I remember making a glossary of terms, like what all of these things meant. Like what is a WAN? What is what is things,
firewall,
all of these things, just as this crib sheet, so that when I could ask, because you need to be a little bit dangerous with what you know, right? You don't have to be an expert, and I think that's one of the things that, again, I'd love to kind of talk about later, in terms of you don't have to be an expert to just put yourself out there, right? You should never be the most clever person in the room, they always say, right?
Oh no, exactly. But why do you reckon, what are we trying to do with this? Why do we like put this together? What were we thinking? What were we thinking?
Well,
when we put this idea together for a podcast?
I think the roles that we both have now, we're strategic consultants in the Pax8 Academy team, and we're kind of coined as this team of experts that come in and help our partners with different business challenges. And we love this because that comes back to our roots, right? It comes back to what we love to do, and that's helping people. And we've now sat in many boardrooms, we've been in many workshops with partners facilitating some of their biggest challenges. And actually that just gave us kind of...
opened our eyes, didn't it?
Opened our eyes, and it gave us, a real idea of terms of, people need to start talking about some of these things on a bigger level.
Yeah, and I think because, let's face it, the industry that we're in, and especially the niche that we're in, it's extremely male dominated. And I think some of the conversations that we've had along the way have been a little bit like, do people still think like that? Is that happening? Is that, have you got any females in your company? That, all of those different things, I think, really opened our eyes up to sort of experience, like...
It's also been our superpower.
Absolutely.
And I think that's one of the things powers have, one of the kind of the partners have loved. You have biases and you have assumptions already made, whether you like it or not. And when you are in an organisation that maybe is male dominant, you don't have that, difference of opinion. So just for us to be able to come in and help some of our partners who are male dominated to see it from a different perspective has really elevated where they are now. So not to toot our own horn, although I will,
Yes, we will.
We rock. I think it's been amazing.
Yeah, I think it definitely has. But it, again, for me, like, totally highlighted that there are still so many challenges, so many different hurdles, so many adversaries that a lot of the women in our industry have had to kind of go through. And that's what I'm been a little bit passionate about. It's kind of like...
This is one of the goals, right?
Yeah, absolutely. To kind of showcase those problems are still occurring. But obviously we want some male allies to really understand these challenges and these, the stories, like ask the women that you work with how they've got to where they are today. We've got some amazing female leaders in our organisation, but there's still a massively long way to go. And we want to share these things with you guys. We want to talk about it. We want to get you thinking. We want you to challenge the status quo and go back to your businesses and be like, did you know? Did you know that this, like throw some stats at them about these types of topics. It's going to be really, really important.
Actually, on that then, Sophie, do you want to highlight some of the topics that maybe the listeners can expect to hear from us over the coming weeks and episodes?
Absolutely. So we want to be looking at personal branding, something that women are absolutely rubbish at. We're terrible for like putting ourselves out there. So we're going to talk about that topic. We're not experts on this by any stretch, but we're going to discuss it and understand it and try and sort of work out what that actually means.
Yeah, and it's probably some words that you've heard, and they sound a bit wishy-washy, if I'm honest, like personal brand and who really wants one.
I know, right?
But nobody is going to stand up for yourself. Like, you have to be the one to put yourself out there, right? And that's what I've learned.
Yeah,
it's like nobody is going to be your cheerleader, so you need to be that person.
That's
and
really
it's being
important.
brave to do that.
Absolutely. Make sure that you're cheering yourself, because like Limara says, no one else is going to do that for you. What else are we going to cover? Confidence, massive one.
You laugh a lot at that.
Huge topic for me, because I have had to overcome stuff, and it only, one of the main reasons why I haven't been able to kind of deal with my confidence issues, because I've got champions and cheerleaders like you behind me going, come on, do you know what? I wouldn't be sat here in this chair today if Limara hadn't kicked me up the backside and been like, just do it. It's a brilliant idea. Come on, we've got to do it. So you've got to have your allies, you've got to have your female champions. It's really, really important.
And there's no secret to having confidence, but one thing I would say is sometimes you have to fake it till you make it. And then actually you believe you have confidence. I think that's where I've come from. Most people that meet me today think I'm really confident. I'm not, honestly. If you'd met me, at the start of my career, I really was not. But I believed in myself because no one else did, and I wanted to prove a point.
And she's going to tell us all about it, because actually I think we're the opposite sometimes, aren't we, when it comes to things?
Yin and yang.
I think I'm like probably more confident outside of work and you're confident inside of work, but we'll get onto that.
It's having someone though, like a buddy, isn't it, to help you?
Totally, absolutely, super, super important. And then we're going to talk about that lovely phrase and saying, those two important words that everyone talks about, imposter syndrome. Such an important topic. It's probably one of those things that gets spoken about all the time, but there's a reason for that, and we're going to tackle that. We're going to have a good discussion around what it is, the definition of it, and all of those great things, and how we can, again, put some strategies in place about how other people have kind of tackled that, how we've kind of tackled that.
I'm really excited for that one. It's
yeah.
Like, who am I to be here telling you guys how to do X, Y, and Z? I love that.
Absolutely.
I love imposter syndrome.
Things like emotional intelligence, because do you know what? Women have brilliant and higher EI and EQ.
Not
sometimes, not all. But why having an understanding and self-awareness of emotional intelligence in a business situation is going to be really, really important. Because of,
this is going to be one of the superpowers that they can really bring you.
Absolutely.
And you can learn emotional intelligence. That's a good thing. Believe it or not, I didn't have the best emotional intelligence. I think you can probably testify to that. But again, things that we can learn, right?
Tips and tricks along the way to kind of improve that, starting with, most importantly, self-awareness. So we'll tackle that. We're going to talk about that as well. And then actually one of the next sessions we'll probably do as well is we're going to touch on, like, actually, women in leadership and how
that's a massive passion project for you.
So passionate for me. I'm like, love a bit of leadership. I'm into my psychology. Love talking about people, how people's brains work. So that is going to be an interesting one as well, because there's so many different ways you can talk about women in leadership and how important they are. So we're going to go through all of that stuff, and please stick around, because it's going to be really, really important. And we would love to hear suggestions, any comments, any topics you want us to tackle or look into. There's so much stuff, and we want to bring you all along.
If you do want to reach out to us, we're going to be on the YouTube, so like and subscribe for more. But do find us on LinkedIn as well. Feel free to reach out to Sophie and I through messaging. We're obviously part of the Pax8 Academy team, so do feel free to come directly through to us. We want to hear from you. That's why we're doing it, right? We want to have fun.
Absolutely.
We love to chat and, put the world to right, but we want to hear from you. We want to hear about some of the topics that you're challenged with right now. And we want to bring it to the forefront.
Absolutely. Get yourself a coffee, snuggle down, get your, notepad in front of you to write some notes, and we'll talk to you and put the world to right on all of these various different topics. We're really excited about it. So hope you are too. But thank you very much for listening.
Yeah, thanks for listening, guys.
And we'll see you all soon.
See you next
Bye.
time.